morning, Mark. I'm excited for us to have a sequel to our conversation from several months ago.
Good morning to you, Elmer. Thank you for having me. And a lot has changed since then, hasn't it?
It's remarkable to think how naive and in some ways overly optimistic we were about when things would change. So let's start at the beginning. From your perspective, uh, what has been surprising? What has turned out to be prescient? And what things were you completely wrong about from our conversation way back in the beginning of April?
Oh my goodness, wrong about everything. No, just no. I think we were one of the first campuses nationwide to pivot, and I think in that sense, we were right on. We were prescient. We were fortunate because we have a lot of advantages. I think 16% of our student classes were actually online. 60% of our entire curriculum was already online, with 40 some percent of our students having at least one or more classes. So that gave us a great basis for pivoting. I think what we tried to do in the beginning was really listen carefully to students. Do you want to be back face to face? Do you want to go down that? And we listened to them, but here's the challenge. At the beginning of summer, students were reeling from that experience of being online, and they generally didn't like it. And I'm not talking about just on our campus. I mean, that was the national perception. And so during the summer, what happened was that students, as it got closer and closer to the fall, they started retreating from that. And we didn't necessarily see that because you're still kind of planning. We want to go, students want to be face to face, but parents and students started saying, well, hang on. And we kind of thought Milwaukee might be more of a hot spot. So here we are today, mid-October, and we see that Milwaukee, yeah, the cases are high, but what's happening across the state? And we have actually seen more campuses in the rural locations in Wisconsin having to close, having to take a few weeks off. And we have been pretty fortunate where as we continued to adapt during the summer, as students kind of voted with their feet, we are about half full in terms of the residence halls. And that was really pretty much where the demand was. We had some construction going on, so we took some things offline. But I think for the most part, we haven't had to have one of the cluster outbreaks. We haven't had to shutter. You've heard that with other campuses in Milwaukee and across the state. So the conservative approach has been good, financially hard, of course, but we're planning the same for the spring. As far as the watch outs and the big ahas and surprises, what we got wrong, we have so many hundred people that have considered an awful lot of the contingencies, and there's a little bit here and there. So, for example, the first students moving in, did we have all the dining hall stuff figured out? Well, there were a few bumps along the way, but generally we've gotten through there. And I just have to give a lot of credit to this amazingly hardworking staff and leadership team that's done a lot. And frankly, I'll tell you the thing that was probably one of the biggest surprises and the most rejoicing part for me is how enthusiastic students who are on campus are to be back. And I've had students who have had fear about us shutting down. They need the employment on campus. They want to be back. They need that for flourishing. 18 to 25-year-olds need to grow. They need to get out of the house. So that enthusiasm, where students don't want to talk about the pandemic. They want to learn. They're asking questions. The humility of our faculty to engage with the students and to do what they're doing, to be on the front line. It's kind of like in the healthcare world. I'm just in awe of what we're doing every day to be able to deliver the quality. So a lot of different aspects there. I know it's not the most coherent answer, but just a lot of different smorgasbord of things there.
Yeah, we were following for sure. You know, early in this conversation, months ago, we talked about uh, a fairly well-defined decision-making process that you had designed to accommodate a lot of the changes happening in higher education and trends that preceded the pandemic. Tell me about how your process may have changed over the last few months and so on.
I think it's evolved to be even tighter. We have a 9 cell matrix that has a number of different factors where we look at availability, we look at the testing rates, we look at what's going on for both antigen tests, PCR tests. We look at what the community, the numbers are happening there. As you can imagine, we're in very close dialogue with the health department for the city of Milwaukee. We also operate 2 campuses in Waukesha and Washington County, so we work with different health municipalities there. That's been kind of interesting to see how different communities, different municipalities have had different rules, different approaches, different safety precautions, and the culture, if you will, associated with that. But our matrix and decision making, we've been transmitting to campus how we have a dashboard, keeping regular track, updated at least 3 times a week. If we can't do it daily, we're at least 3 times a week giving data points. I can tell you that we're testing today over 250 students a day. We want to get that up to about 400 students a day, which we expect to be at in another few weeks. And this all happened late in the game. We did not expect, if you had asked me 4 or 5 months ago, are we going to do testing on our campus of any type? I would have told you, and I did tell people, we are not a health department, we're not a hospital, we're not a clinic, we don't have the medical professional staff. No. Well, enter Governor Tommy Thompson as the interim president, and he somehow came up with $18 million for the UW system and a pretty clear direction to bring on the tests. So we're testing in a way, and we have staff, we have the capacity, and that's the front line. So that factors into the decision-making matrix in a huge way and really allows us to identify frontline, where are there super spreaders? Where are there individuals at risk? And now we've expanded that to non-residential students. So we've got a good handle on campus, and we're bringing in larger concentric circles of students. We also test at-risk faculty, those who are what we call in congregates. So staff. Primarily staff who are serving in the dining halls or working in the residence halls, people who are working closely with students. We want to know where those cases are at. So it's pretty sophisticated. Obviously, everything is tracked online. We've got great databases. And the funny part is the testing is maybe a third of the work. A lot of it is the back of the house information gathering, how you use that information. It's kind of like, you can use the cloud. It's like the Internet of Things. It's like one thing to collect sensor data, but then what do you do with it? How do you make meaningful decisions? So I think we're pretty good at that, especially given the resources that we do not have compared to some of these, you've heard about the big decisions, from the Purdue's and the Arizona States and the University of Arizona or these large powerhouse, University of Florida. And I have to tell you, so many of those campuses had bravado and went into it big, and then they've had to really scale back and trim. Look at the football world today with Saban. I know this is temporal. We don't know when viewers are going to see it, but across the SEC, the full bullish football approach having to scale back a little bit. I hope we don't see that, of course, in the Big Ten. I hope that Wisconsin can continue to play and other things. But we're dealing with that right now with our basketball, men's and women's basketball. And I'm the chair of our Horizon League, and we're having not quite daily calls, but we're in the midst of how we're going to bring competition back online. That's a huge issue because you've got student athletes that you want to talk about a complicated issue. Municipalities travel competition for basketball, seriously, with students, there's just no shortage of issues. And you've got 12 different campuses that are trying to figure out a way to drive consensus. So that's a little more weeds than you need to know, but there's a lot of things we're always dealing with in this world.
So, I think about what behavioral economists say, that we in general as people are really bad at sort of, we are comfortable making predictions about the future, though we're usually wrong. And we're really bad about remembering the past. So I'm going to push you into that uncomfortable place and ask you to make some predictions. What do you see as the future, both the opportunities and the challenges facing large organizations like universities, facing higher education, and frankly, facing the students and the people that rely on universities and higher education to be a pathway to a prosperous future?
There's a lot there. We could talk for a long time about a lot of the issues there. I'll try to offer a few themes. I can't predict long term, but I can suggest that we're not going to go back to the way it was before for a long, long time. I think some people have often thought or hoped that we'd get a vaccine and next fall would be normal, whatever normal might have meant in whatever your industry or sector was. In higher ed, what I see happening is some fundamental seismic types of shifts where, working with our students, hearing them talk, they went from a perspective of in the spring, not liking online, again, nationally, locally. We did better because I think we had some pretty good skills at it already. But honestly, we had room for improvement. And I see that in the fall, students really like online and they're figuring it out and they're warming up to it and they're seeing the advantages. I also think that faculty who didn't want to go online are now getting used to it and really liking it. And I also think the economic model and the whole concept of higher ed, which historically we would say the path to prosperity for so many individuals, and as an access university, as the largest access university in the state of Wisconsin, serving the largest number of underrepresented students, serving the most non-traditional students, having been recognized again this week as a top 30 campus for LGBT plus, not top 30%, top 30 in the nation, one of 6 or 7 in the Midwest, having the most military veterans by a factor of 2. In that context, being a true access university, we know, and it's in our DNA, to serve. And what I mean is to narrow the completion gaps. We have to be better at that. And in that context, I don't know if a 4-year degree as the standard, given what employers are saying about the needed competencies and the shifts that they've had. Look at the number of individuals who are classified organizationally as not technologically able to do the work today in jobs because of the infusion and the rapid growth of so many new technologies. So can we develop badging, certificates, stackable credentials in ways that are portable and quick and simultaneously serve as an access university even better? Figure out the economic model of that for helping universities be sustained, and at the same time, making it much easier for students to afford that, especially those who have been left behind. And so the online component is the key to all of that, but not just going online in a binary, we're online or we're not, but doing it in a quality, rich, interactive way. Replicate that closeness, what you can get in a face-to-face type of experience through chat rooms, through supplemental instruction, through coaching, through additional things that break things down into smaller pieces. That's the future as I see it. Now, that's independent of if we waved a wand and we didn't have COVID and the economy bounced back, I still think that's going to be the sticky model for the future. Will degrees be needed? Will we still have 2-year technical, 4-year bachelor's, graduate degrees? Yes. There's always going to be a place for those. You need accountants, you need engineers, you need nursing credentials. But I think with the on-ramps and off-ramps that urban universities in particular are experiencing, look at how many students. I mean, we're seeing it literally every day. Freshman enrollment today, the headline, 16% down this year. Go to George Washington University. I don't care if you're, this is not just the regional campuses. This is the flagships. This is the tier 1 academic institutions. People are pulling back. Is this the right place to be? All the risk factors. But the demand will pull us through. But the demand is going to be different, and that's what I'm trying to get at. And I think we're flexible, but I don't know if all universities are, and that's why I'm pretty excited about what we're doing collaboratively in this region around here. The Higher Ed Regional Alliance, where we're banding together, piloting, working with great academic partners. We've got leading this work is John Walls at MSOE and Christine Farr at Mount Mary through the HERA initiative, working with our Phyllis King to pilot some things, to drive this with contributions from a lot of the different regional participating universities. So those are things that are exciting. And I think for employers here, that's really good news.
Speaking of, what do our GMC members need to know about HERA?
I think what's important to know, and first of all, GMC is the financial, it's our financial motherboard, and
The
Julie,
fiscal agent.
fiscal agent. Thank you. And Julie is the treasurer of HERA. She's just done a banner job with her guidance and wisdom in terms of providing a lot of structure and work as we go forward. But HERA represents 18 academic institutions in the M7 region that have banded together around three goals with a strong equity lens on all of these. Number one, completion. We've got to get more students through, and so graduation is foundational. And we just recently announced earlier this week the Moonshot Initiative, where a number of us will participate with Education Advisory Board to completely eliminate, not to close the gap gradually, but eliminate the achievement gap, so that whatever your background, you're going to be guaranteed, you're going to be assured you're going to graduate if you start at one of our academic institutions. The second goal is around what can we do? And by the way, I should mention Vicki Martin, the GMC member, she and Debbie Ford from UW Parkside are leading that goal one. Goal two is around innovative practices across our institution. So the transfer practices, think about students who started a two-year campus and want to be a nurse or an engineer or go on to a four-year degree, but they find that their credits don't transfer, or it's going to take them an extra year or two. Well, why did they even save the money, they thought, by going to that two-year campus? So we've worked through some great things to give this new technology that's online, that students can access and have greater assurances of transfer credits. It's mapped everything out across our institutions, public, private, two-year, four-year. It's really neat. So a lot of innovative activity going on there. And the third piece that's I think equally, if not more relevant for employers, is the idea of how do we strengthen the relationship between academic institutions and employers? So here's an example. Todd McLeese, who's really helping create our industry forum yesterday, he pointed out something that many of us know. You have large employers in Milwaukee that recruit from 3 local institutions and then others nationally. But there's 18 institutions that are here. So they might recruit at a Marquette or a UWM or a Carroll College, but what about MIAD's great students? What about those wonderful students at Cardinal Stritch or at Gateway Technical College, just across the region that employers are overlooking inadvertently, but also those students are unable to access. So we've created a number of different online tools, a number of different ways by the career and internship and co-op centers working together with employers, strengthening that. So those are the types of things that are very, I think, important for employers to know, and happy to share more. And this is something that we've reduced a lot of barriers, and people should be really proud of the collaboration that's happening regionally. The talent challenges and the equity challenges in this region are so severe that we need to work together. We need to share practices, we need to learn from each other, and we need to have joint strategies to really bring these things together to solve the needs. We have a temporary blip, and what I mean by that is for 10 years, we've been hearing employers say their number one challenge is finding enough talent. Today, we may have enough talent in different areas, but that's not the case for certain high need fields. And we also need more diverse talent that's got education. So this is a huge area of emphasis for all the work that we're doing together.
So looking at the time and wanting to be mindful of your schedule and mine as well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you at least something about this zeitgeist, right? The prevailing conversation of the moment, beyond that of coronavirus and the economic shutdown and so on, is about the nation's reconciling itself and awakening to the realities of systemic injustice and social inequities based particularly on race. I think what you have led UWM into and through is somewhat public, and I'm proud of the work that you're doing. But I would love to hear just from you, Mark, as the leader of a substantial institution, as CEO of such an extraordinary organization, what's the advice that you would offer I believe you do identify as a white man, and I would love to hear what advice you would offer to folks like yourself, and folks unlike yourself, about how to best participate and navigate this moment.
Well, thanks, Elmer. That's an important question, one that I can only answer with significant humility. The learnings that I've experienced in the last year have been profound. There's no other way to describe that. I don't use that word very often, and I don't use it casually or lightly. My instinct would have been a year ago, when I saw the types of issues happening in the community and nationally, would be to say, we can help, and let us be a facilitator. We're a neutral party. But you can't do that when you haven't taken care of your own home. You can't do that if you don't have your own racism, your own bias, your own challenges honestly confronted. One of the things that's been so powerful for us is a series of listening sessions that we've held on our campus, where we really peeled the kimono, we peeled the layers back and said, we just want you to share, and the conversations were facilitated very, very effectively. We had our students share what their experiences have been. We had our faculty share what their experiences have been, and then our staff. And I have to tell you, these conversations were brutally candid. They're painful. They've been something that's really exposed a lot of the racism, institutional issues, even on our campus. Why have we not had the opportunities? Why do we not mirror better the population we serve? And you know, I, again, having been at UWM now going on 32 years, I could tell you oftentimes what you might consider or others might consider to be reasons or rationale. The pipeline, we can talk about pipeline issues. We can talk about just some of the things that happen in terms of, I might have said historically, well, I can't do much about that. Who hires faculty? Faculty hire faculty. But I can tell you, for all the 5 or 6 reasons, whether you think they're good or not, I have come to the conclusion that if we don't put those aside and recognize that at some level those are excuses, those have to change. If we don't completely look at a different set of goals and a completely different way of operating, we're always going to be the same. And so we've taken that on head on, and the things that we've done, to the extent these are useful for others to learn from, is we've tried to listen, but we've also tried to engage and have systemic approaches to how we hire, how we promote, and commitments with explicit goals. So we have joined the MMAC Region of Choice, for example, a public declaration that says, we will have in leadership positions in 5 years, and I'm tracking this and I'll be reporting to campus every 6 months, 25% more individuals in supervisory leadership director types of positions, all the way up, that we have to have that type of goal. 15% overall in terms of a commitment for our overall staff. Those are numbers that will have specific meaning followed through with actions. Now, reinforcing that is we've sent a number of faculty and staff to the University of Southern California's Race and Equity Center. We're going to have 100 more people trained on that through the Moonshot Initiative. And then I'm piloting with myself and my cabinet our anti-racism, anti-bias training that a diverse group of 17 faculty and staff and students have put together the scripts and the videos. We've created our own training. We looked at the stuff that's out there on the shelves and all these different places you can buy it from. And we said, we're educators. We can control and drive that content. So we're creating our own series, our own training, mandatory. My cabinet is piloting it. January 1st, this goes campus-wide. So we're going to expect everybody. So that's going to reinforce, and we really need to change the culture. I commissioned a book on the value of diversity on our campus. Historically, we've had 2 history books on our campus, but we have never recognized, showcased the contributions of diversity. I ticked off earlier the dimensions. Well, I'm going to share with you, we have 9 different chapters, each written by faculty and or other leaders who have been responsible in the history of UWM for really owning and creating those different areas. So those are some things that build on the probably 14 or 15 other areas that we've already had in place to really address the types of things that we're doing. We have a group on care, respect, and expression for how we have freedom of speech, how we bring into the world today the different protesting forces. How do you have civil conversation and really have meaningful dialogue? And if we can't do that on campuses, where can we do it in our society today? So those are some of the things that we're doing, but it really has to start with me. It has to start with my senior leadership team. And really, I'm happy to say the engagement on a campus like ours with our governance group, where we're different from a manufacturing firm. We're different from a healthcare organization where you might have a CEO that is more able to kind of guide and direct from a hierarchy. We're a very participative organization. Having been a faculty member for decades, I appreciate and value that. But those are some of the things that we're doing, Elmer, on those fronts. And I want to tell you, it's not easy, but it's the right thing for us to do. And I'm entirely committed to dramatically changing UWM's footprint, culture, and commitment to everything around diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Mark, I am always so excited when I get some time to speak with you, and this time is no different than any other. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for kind of closing the loop on what has been a really incredible year. And I mean incredible in its denotative way. I wish you continued success navigating the challenges and of systemic injustice, as well as keeping the university going.
Thank you, Elmer. It's always great talking to you. It'll be interesting to see where we are in a year, won't it?
Won't it, though? In the meanwhile, I might stop by and, maybe we can take a walk down the street.
I would love it. And welcome to the neighborhood where you're going to be joining us in the near future. I'm really excited about that and happy for you, Elmer. Thanks for all you're doing. Appreciate your leadership and everything that's happening for our GMC.
I appreciate it. Mark, have a great one.
Thanks, Elmer. Okay, bye-bye.